Hey everybody, welcome back to Clipboard Cars. Today on the channel we have a year 2000 Jeep Wrangler Sahara, better known as the TJ.
Sahara, open air, take me anywhere, top off, doors off, I don't even care, wind in my hair, bass up, let it play, last of a true icon, lead me down the way. Sahara, open it, Sahara, open it, Sahara, open it. Mud on the fenders, sun on the hood.
Now in this video we're going to cover 5 exterior features as well as 5 interior features. We'll show you the whole vehicle wide open, then we'll get behind the wheel, take it for a drive, and give you our thoughts and impressions. For an exterior feature, one of my favorites is the fact that the Jeep Wrangler TJ debuted coil spring suspension with 4-link setup, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Right over here on this step, this is kind of a fun thing from back in the day, and that's because the design engineers for the Jeep, they actually codenamed this step the skateboard, and that's because it's lipped up here and it's lipped up back here. They did that because it was their first way of introducing their thoughts for off-road use, so that way with it, having it angled like that, it was less likely to get hung up on different rocks and obstacles as they were going through the trails. And over here we have exterior hood latches, so you could technically open the whole hood from the exterior of the vehicle. You won't have to actually pull a latch from the inside. It's just as easy as doing that on both sides and lifting it up. One of my favorite exterior features of the Jeep is the fact that the top is removable and the doors are removable, and that is the only way you should be driving one of these vehicles when the sun is out, because that is just the most enjoyable way to drive it. And then up front we have the iconic 7-slot grille, and the TJ Wrangler brought back the circle headlights. Before there was the YJ Wrangler, and that had a square headlight. Still a fun vehicle. Shout out to Jurassic Park. But this Jeep brought back the circle headlights that we all love very much. A special exterior feature for the Sahara models was that the fenders were actually paint matched to match the body. Normally these would be a black plastic. Coming around to the interior, one of my favorite interior features of the TJ is that underneath the carpet you have drain plugs, so that if you are caught driving in the rain with the top off and everything starts to pool up with water, you can lift the carpet up real quick, pull the drain plug, all the water drains out. That's been a pretty common feature on Wranglers since, well, as far as I know. As we look up, there's a cool roll cage here. I wouldn't actually trust it in the event of an actual roll, but it is a little bit of protection and it does finish out the look of the Wrangler. Specific for the Sahara models for this year were the tan and green cloth seats. These are some of my favorite seats for a Wrangler, and I really wish Jeep would bring this style back because it just is, to me, an iconic look. And they're also super comfortable. Coming over to the center of the interior, we have a 5-speed transmission, which is the best way to spec one of these vehicles. However, you could get it in a 3-speed automatic from 97 to 2003, and then from 2003 and on, you could get a 4-speed automatic. Just get the manual. If you're shopping for one of these, try your best to find a manual. It's a much more pleasant experience. The last feature I want to cover for the interior is the back seat. It's easy to flip up and out of the way so you can have more storage, because obviously having this being primarily a 2-seater kind of vehicle, the back trunk area shouldn't be a seat. It should just be focused on as a trunk, but you could technically have some friends ride back there.
Turn feels better, like freedom should. Trail to the river, ground through the pine. This kind of old soul ain't easy to find. See back low, sky up high, that old 4-wheel grin comes alive.
All right, so we are driving the 2000 Jeep Wrangler Sahara, better known as Sarah the Sahara. Looking around the interior, it's a lot of hard plastics, and that's a good thing because if you drive this with the top and doors off, you know, rain, weather, the elements wants to get in here, and you just want a lot of good hard surfaces that are kind of plasticky, so that way you can easily clean them off and they don't get damaged by the weather. And right here we have a lockable center console storage cubby that you push the button down, and it's got a pretty good amount of storage. It's a little bit small as far as the opening to get in there. Once you can fit something through the opening of it, you have plenty of storage to keep it all tucked away and stuff like that. Moving up from the storage, we have 2 good-sized cup holders that are just molded into the plastic. And then to the right of that is your e-brake, and then moving up from there is the 5-speed stick shift. If you're ever looking to find a vehicle to learn to drive stick shift on, I'd say a Wrangler is a pretty easy one to do that because it's a very forgiving transmission. To the left of the 5-speed is the transfer case shifter for shifting it from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive and 4 low. And then up from there is the climate controls, very standard, simple things to look at. You got your fan speed, how cold or hot you want the air to be, and then you have obviously where you want the air to go. Up from there, we upfitted the interior with a Sony head unit, and that has the ability to bring this Jeep into modern times with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and all that kind of stuff. So it just really makes the vehicle a lot more usable than it used to be. Moving up from there, we've got our climate vents and then a little tray on top. So pretty standard looking Wrangler interior. To the right, we have a grab handle for the passenger to hold on to in the event that you're off-road and having a little too much fun. To the left of the center is obviously the steering wheel and the gauges. Gauges are very clear. You've got your temperature, oil temp, trans temp, fuel gauge, and battery voltage, as well as obviously your RPMs and your speed. One of the neat things about the gauge cluster is in the upper right corner, there's a little arrow that points up, and that indicates when you need to actually shift up with the vehicle. It pretty much always immediately lights up as soon as you put your foot on the throttle, but at least Jeep is telling you, hey, don't forget to shift. The doors have a little bit of an armrest to them, so you can rest your arm on the side. You're just going to kind of pinch your elbow right up to the glass, or just have your elbow hanging out the side if you have your window down. The best way to enjoy this Jeep is to have the doors off and the top. It was a little bit loud when we tried recording earlier, so we put the top and doors back on so that way you could at least hear me. And I do apologize that the camera is shaking a bunch. This vehicle is a little shaky. These seats, again, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, are some of my favorite seats. They're extremely comfortable. I really wish Jeep would bring this style of seat back because the new modern Wranglers have the hard leather seats, and it's just not as enjoyable to drive. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still really fun vehicles to drive, but if they put these seats back in the new Wranglers, maybe they might just start selling more Wranglers. Below the grab handle on the passenger side is the glove box that in time most TJs run into this where the glove box doesn't actually want to relatch when you open it, but there is a little bit of storage in there and it also is lockable. The driving characteristics of a TJ are a bit on the wild side, especially once they're lifted with big tires. They kind of just wander wherever they want to go. Just do your best, hold the steering wheel, and just kind of go with the motion, but just try to guide the Jeep along. Slowing the Jeep down is fairly easy. They are small vehicles, they're very light, and it literally stops just like an ordinary vehicle. The only thing is, since it's such a short wheelbase, if you slam on the brakes from like 60 miles an hour or 70 miles an hour and you have to stab the brakes because something pulls out in front of you, you are going to feel that the Jeep's going to wiggle around a bunch on you. That's literally just because there's just not a whole lot of length to the vehicle. This Jeep is far from stock. We went through on a prior episode and completely overhauled this whole vehicle to bring it up to spec, to being a safe vehicle for my fiance to drive. And we had one shop completely comb through the entire powertrain to make sure everything there was good. Once we had the powertrain and transmission all taken care of, as well as the axles, brakes, all that, we then moved on to doing some of the fun things. So we put a JKS 3-inch lift on the vehicle, and that also replaced all 8 control arms on the vehicle. We put new dual rate springs, Fox Adventure Series shocks. Everything about this Jeep rides really good on pavement. We're not really anticipating taking this off-road. This is more of the cruising, the weekend fun pavement Jeep. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's Jeeps, there's thousands of Jeeps where people do that with their Wranglers. My personal Wrangler, on the other hand, we gotta do an episode on that one. We'll try and find something fun to do on some rocks. Outside of the lift, we then put a set of bronze method wheels on. We just felt that that would really match the black and tan accents that this vehicle has, and it really ties the whole look together. A lot of people compliment this Jeep for its wheels. We also did a heavy-duty tire carrier on the back because the stock tire carrier for the TJ won't be able to support a 35-inch tire, which we have Yokohama mud terrains on this, and they're 35 inches. They're mud terrains. They're very heavy, and so upgrading the rear tire carrier was definitely a need for that. One of the things you're going to want to upgrade if you buy a TJ Wrangler is the headlights and taillights. They are not very useful at all. They are very dim, so we replaced the headlights and put some KC Gravity Series lights in the front, and then some standard LED taillights in the back. You are going to have to do some electrical work with figuring out how to get the right modules and stuff for the new electrical current to function with the new LEDs, because you can't just plug them in and expect them to work. Other things have to happen in order to bring this old electrical architecture up to speed. We also replaced the front bumper. When we got the Jeep, it had a chrome bumper on, which looked cool back in the early 2000s, but I wanted to bring this Jeep back to its original stock form as far as the general look of the front end. We put a factory steel/plastic bumper on the front. One thing that was popular with enthusiasts in the early 2000s was putting body lifts on Jeeps, and it's a quick, cost-effective way to gain a little bit of lift, but it also kind of puts the Jeep as if it's riding on stilts, and over time things tend to rust out and it becomes a little bit of a problem. It also makes the Jeep feel a little on the tippy side. So we haven't addressed it yet, but we are going to try to find time to remove it, but it is going to be a tedious process because the bolts are a little bit on the rusted side, so we don't want to tie up. We want to make sure we have enough time when we're using my buddy's lift so that we don't tie up too much time with that. We'll figure it out. Doing a little bit of an example right now, stabbing the brakes, and the Jeep just wants to, and that could be a little bit of a caster issue that we're gonna also address with the suspension. So the Jeep Wrangler, the TJ generation, started its production in 1997 and ended in 2006. I would say the TJ is the favorite, or one of the favorites amongst Jeep enthusiasts. It was a very well-built Jeep. I think it was the very last of the full steel body Jeeps that were just completely raw, rugged, Spartan style. Like there's not a whole lot to these. It was very, it's hard to put it. I mean, I know I own a JK, but once you leave a JK and go into this, you're like, oh, this feels like the real deal. Yeah, I definitely understand why. And then obviously the most coveted Jeep that a lot of enthusiasts really like is the LJ, which was what manufactured from 2005 to 2006, and that was what Jeep originally called the Unlimited Wrangler, where they stretched it out a little bit longer, had a perfect wheelbase for off-road use. So we're in a 2000 Jeep TJ, and this was before they did the revised interior or facelift, whatever you want to call it. Facelift or interior update was in 2003 to 2006. And I do personally like that interior a little bit better. I like the steering wheel in that one a little bit more, but there's nothing to complain about with this 2000 Wrangler because you just feel really cool driving it. You've got a windshield that's literally flat and straight up. There's no real rake to it. So the Wrangler TJ had a few different engine options over its course between 97 to 2006. One of the options for the 97 to 2002 model years was an AMC 4-cylinder, and I think that was the least favorite engine amongst enthusiasts. It also could be mated to a 3-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual transmission, and they weren't really known to be the most reliable things out there, but you could also get it to what this Jeep has, which is the 4-liter 6-cylinder. It's an inline-six and has been coveted just as the legendary 4.0. If you're shopping for one of these, honestly, try your best to find a 5-speed inline-six, and you'll be very happy you did. From 2003 to 2006, there was a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder that you could get. That had a little bit of a bump in power, but still the inline-six was the better option, and they still offered that amongst all the years that the TJ was built. In 1996, that was kind of a weird year for the Wrangler because they were really winding down the YJ production, and it almost seemed like there were 0 Wranglers on the lots for 1996, and that was because they were anticipating the 97 TJ launch, and it almost, to people that weren't in the know in the industry at that time, it almost felt like the Wrangler was going away, but Jeep was keeping it a big secret. They had this huge unveiling of revamping the Wrangler, and obviously the TJ hit the market for 97 and everyone rejoiced. One of the things that Wrangler owners got excited about was the coil sprung suspension with a 4-link control arm set up front and rear. Before, on the YJs, they had what were called leaf springs, and while they were a good kind of cost-effective way to manufacture suspension for the Wrangler, they were extremely uncomfortable. They had a decent amount of flex and travel to them for off-road use, but nothing quite compares to a true coil suspension. It's just a much better ride on road and a little bit better articulation off-road. It was a huge leap forward for how the Wranglers rode and drove, because if you have a leaf spring on a solid axle vehicle, it is a really rough time. But again, we're driving this Jeep and it is very comfortable. Obviously, I think the seats do a lot of the absorption for all the ride vibrations and stuff that are going on, but I really do like that Jeep switch to a coil spring suspension. One of the things that the TJ platform brought us was the 2003 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. So that was the very start of the Rubicon line, and has ever since been pretty much a legendary name in off-road vehicles ever since then. I personally have a 10th anniversary Rubicon, and I love that thing to death. Jeep went that route with it because you have the Rubicon Trail that it was named after and all that kind of stuff. It's really fun because it was a really focused way that a manufacturer looked at how do we bring our performance model, which is their off-road version for Jeeps, how do we bring that to market? How do we let people know this is going to be a serious thing? They went and proved it on the Rubicon Trail. They slapped the badge on there calling it the Rubicon, and it's really resonated with off-roaders ever since. The Rubicon came with Dana 44 front and rear axles, 410 gears, a 4-to-1 rock track transfer case that really separated it from everything else that was on the market at the time, and still today. It also had front and rear air lockers and standard 31-inch tires, which again back then was a pretty big deal. I know that now 37s are like the standard off-road size tire that people are running, but 31-inch tires back then on a Wrangler, it's not bad. 33s were probably what more people were trying to use, but if you could fit 35s back then, there weren't really that many 35s back then. 35s didn't really hit the scene until 2007-ish. The TJ Wrangler ended production in 2006, making the final years obviously the most sought after by enthusiasts. You have the LJ and the TJ models, both of them very good vehicles. It was pretty much obviously the last year, so all the issues were pretty much ironed out with them. There really weren't that many. There was an ignition coil switch that was updated in 2003, and pretty much you're just wanting to get the newest TJ available. Obviously a 2006 would be it. So yeah, if I ever decide I want to buy a TJ, a 2006 LJ would be the move for me. These Jeeps are a lot of fun to drive. If you ever want to see more on this Jeep, we have another episode where we filmed the whole restoration process of it called Saving Sarah's Jeep, and you can check that out on Clipboard Cars. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe to Clipboard Cars. We have new episodes every single week, and we really enjoy just driving something new every week. We'll see you guys for the next one. It's going too fast for second gear.